The millisecond a trigger is pulled, a firing pin strikes a primer, igniting a chemical propellant that forces a projectile into biological tissue. Every gunshot wound serves as a decipherable physical signature of the event's mechanics. A forensic pathologist uses that tissue damage to reverse engineer the exact mechanics of the shooting event. To build this profile, the investigation isolates the internal mechanics of the weapon, the exterior flight path of the bullet, and the terminal impact on the target. We can trace this sequence by examining 6 critical variables: bore, choking, tandem bullets, ricochet, dum-dum rounds, and the abrasion collar. By mastering these variables, a clinical wound profile can be directly translated into the precise mechanical history of a lethal event. Before a projectile ever enters the air, its initial trajectory, velocity, and force are governed by the internal architecture of the firearm's barrel. In a rifled firearm, the interior barrel diameter is called the bore or caliber. This dimension is measured strictly between 2 diagonally opposite lands, the raised ridges that spiral down the barrel. Smooth-bore shotguns use a different standard. Their bore is calculated by weight. A 12-bore shot of a pound will pacific pellets. By keeping the mass grouped together, choking increases the explosive force, driving it at a higher velocity and significantly extending its lethal range. These internal mechanical modifiers, the bore's diameter and the muzzle's choke, establish the mathematical baseline for the physical trauma. That baseline physics model can be violently disrupted when ammunition or firearm maintenance fails. One specific failure is the tandem bullet, where multiple projectiles are ejected from a single trigger pull. This occurs when a bullet gets stuck mid-chamber due to faulty ammunition or heavy rust. Unaware of the blockage, the user fires a subsequent round. The second bullet travels down the chamber and violently strikes the stalled projectile, forcing both out simultaneously. For the pathologist examining the victim, this malfunction presents as 2 distinct projectiles clustered tightly together, or even sharing the exact same entry wound. Recognizing a tandem wound profile immediately alerts investigators to a severe mechanical malfunction in the specific weapon used. Once a bullet clears the muzzle, its flight path is subject to intermediate obstacles. A ricochet occurs when a bullet deflects off an intermediate surface. The physics of this deflection rely heavily on the critical angle of impact, typically between 10 and 30 degrees. The bullet will glance off at an outgoing angle smaller than its incoming angle, a collision that disrupts its spin and induces severe wobbling or tumbling through the air. The physical stress of the impact also flattens, deforms, or fragments the lead and copper structure of the bullet before it ever reaches the target. Because the bullet is tumbling and mangled, it produces an atypical, jagged entry wound, frequently resulting in blunt trauma instead of a clean puncture. Analyzing the precise margins of that jagged wound, alongside the bullet's deformity, allows investigators to reconstruct the geometric angles of the shooting environment. When the projectile finally reaches its target, kinetic energy is forcefully transferred into biological tissue. This illustration shows several bullet types, starting on the far left with the dum-dum round. It features a partial metal jacket that deliberately leaves the lead core exposed at the nose. Upon striking soft tissue, the internal pressure of the impact forces that exposed lead tip to immediately expand, or mushroom, outward. This rapid expansion maximizes internal soft tissue destruction, creating a higher incapacitation index compared to standard fully jacketed rounds. But regardless of the bullet's internal engineering, the human skin exhibits a universal biomechanical reaction to high-velocity impact. The resulting defect is defined by the abrasion collar, the primary forensic signature of an entry wound. For a microsecond before it tears the tissue, the spinning projectile acts as a blunt instrument. It deeply indents and stretches the skin taut until the extreme tension causes a sudden perforation. This violent friction rubs away the top layer of skin, leaving a distinct, flattened, reddish-brown zone of abraded epidermis immediately surrounding the entry hole. Whether analyzing the massive internal track of an expanding bullet or measuring the microscopic superficial ring of the abrasion collar, the body permanently records the physics of the projectile.